Yeah, I think, hey, you know what? Since that's a good segue to get into to some NFL talk. We talked about some college ball, some of these huge games this past weekend. The NFL brought huge games, huger games this past weekend as well, Sunday and even tonight, as New Orleans goes to Kansas City, undefeated Kansas City, the same New Orleans who I thought was unstoppable just 3 weeks ago. They've been stopped twice. Now they're going into Kansas City, playing against the buzzsaw, but against a Patrick Mahomes who isn't looking like Patrick Mahomes, but they're still undefeated. So what difference does it make? He'll get it together.
Yeah, we'll see how they do without Rashee Rice for an entire game. What's their game plan? How do they respond losing him, playing without him?
Xavier Worthy. See what Xavier Worthy is.
He's gonna have to step up. Like I said last week, send him deep, and it opens up the middle for everybody else, especially Kelsey. Kelsey really he can do his own thing without people opening it up by going long. So if he has more room to operate, it's just going to make him that much more dangerous.
So what does qualify for the biggest game on Sunday? I think that Baltimore game against Cincinnati. Name teams. I think because Joe Burrow, even though they haven't played well, I'm thinking that, it's still Joe Burrow. You always think they have a chance. You always think they can get back on track at a moment's notice and head where they need to head. It was a division battle, Baltimore and Cincinnati, and we saw everything we needed to see in that game. Derrick Henry shut down almost the entire game, but when it mattered, like you say, don't tell me what you've done, tell me when you've done it. Look what he did. He did it late when it mattered.
Right. That was a crazy game. I was going crazy myself yesterday. I knew the Bears had it under control, so I'm flipping back between the Bills and Texans. Then I saw the Colts tied it up. I'm like, well, let me check on the Colts and Jaguars. And I saw it was like 28-24, then 31-28, whatever. There was no defense being played in Cincinnati. I was trying to keep up. But, I don't know. I kind of think the Bills and Texans was a little bit bigger.
Oh, yeah, you know what?
Only because the Bengals are 1-4 now.
That Joe Burrow factor, man. We looked at that last year.
I can see
he was getting back together.
I can see Burrow versus Lamar Jackson, that being a marquee matchup. But Josh Allen against C.J. Stroud.
See, C.J. Stroud being that second guy, and we still like second-year guy, and we're thinking, okay, well, based on what he's done so far, I'm not looking for a wall to come up all of a sudden. But, man, yeah, that is a big game. But for the incumbents, I guess, a second-year player, can you really call him an incumbent when we've heard these names? Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, now for year after year after year. And when they get together, special things happen. I guess next year C.J. Stroud will be welcomed into he's a real veteran now, especially if he's keeping up doing what he's doing or even getting better. He's going to be in that elite quarterback conversation. Hell, the way he's playing, he might be in it before the season's over.
Well, if he gets into the playoffs again, and it seems likely at this point, but I'm not going to rank him in the top 5, but he's coming.
Oh, he's coming. He's there.
He's not having a sophomore jinx, knock on wood, so far. But I was more excited to see Josh Allen versus Buffalo versus C.J. Stroud. And that game really didn't disappoint. That's one of the games that came down to a last-second field goal.
A hard, like a 59-yard field goal, bro.
Yeah.
He had to block that joint, and it made it. It would have gone by 65 yards, though. Kickers these days.
But Justin Tucker, that dude is money, cash money.
Hall of Fame.
It's pretty much a given. He's got the highest kicking percentage of all time. He's probably the best kicker of all time, but he's been struggling this year. Kicks he usually makes, he's missed 49-yarder. That's a chip shot. He's got the record of 66-yarder.
Chip shot, exactly.
Yeah, 49 is a chip shot for Justin Tucker, but he's missed a 49 attempt, a 52-yard attempt. He was 0 for on all his 50-yard attempts, and then he had a 50. I can't remember how far it was yesterday, but it was 50-something. And he nailed it right down to his heart, man. I was like, that dude is cash money. He can miss over here when it don't matter, but when the game's on the line, you can put your money on Justin Tucker.
Yeah, but then let's get to the real talk of the town, which is Lamar Jackson. Well, took victory out of the Georgia defeat, and they win the game anyways.
Yeah, but up until that point, he was balling, man. He was making good throws. He was, man, that play where he used the stiff arm and threw the touchdown pass to Likely. That's an all-time. Did you see that play?
Yeah, they kept showing that play.
Yeah, that's an all-time highlight right there.
They talked about how he challenged Derrick Henry. He gave him the Derrick Henry treatment.
I've seen a lot of stiff arms in football, but I've never seen a stiff arm going backwards. And he did it twice. And he got him
called the Billy Graham baptized you and threw him down in the water.
Hey, they're talking on ESPN today. Is he in the MVP conversation? After plays like that and coming out with the victory, yeah. Bro, I can't say that he's not. My thing is, I think voters would be hung up on he doesn't do it in the playoffs, so I'm not going to give him MVP.
But it's a regular season award.
I understand that, but you know how voters are. I mean, Angel Reese got a vote she didn't deserve.
They got who?
I said Angel Reese got a vote she didn't deserve. You know how voters are.
That she didn't deserve, and someone decided they wanted to give her a vote anyway, and we still looking in the Harlem for that person who did it.
He was doing it on the ground with his arm. He was a baller yesterday. Feel bad for Joe Burrow. Not much else he can do.
No, he did his part. He certainly did his part. And, and I remember when Lamar Jackson's numbers were looking pretty down in terms of his passing numbers, because he's still going to be that threat running. And I think even going into this season and even after the first couple of games when he had those losses, people were coming down on him. And he was like, you know what? Forget it. If I throw 50 yards, I'm good and we win. You know what I mean? Now, he had about 130 yards or something like that, somewhere around there. And I was like, okay, Lamar doing what Lamar does, but they were still in the game. But when it was all said and done, you look at these numbers, everything looked good around the board. And what was most important is they won the game against a division foe, and it gives them a 1-up.
Right. And then the rematch will be in Baltimore. So it'll be that much more difficult for Cincinnati. So, yeah, that's a big win for the Ravens. Go in there, division rival, come out with the dub. No matter how it happened, just coming out there with the dub, that's the most important thing.